Shalom, all praises, honor, and glory go to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Kodash. Double honor unto the apostles, elder bishops, and elders of Great Millstone and rule well. And their daughters is true. Salutations to the sincere Achim out there that are out on the highways and byways, prophesying the downfall of this wicked kingdom, and also, of course, waking up the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the true Hebrew Israelites that the Bible speaks of. You know, we are another bunch of bywords, you know, the black, Jamaican, Latino, you know, who spoke Latin, you know? I tell you, you know, is this devil, the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, you know, was the devil according to the Bible. So this the so-called white man was the devil, I understand? So these people name countries, continents after their own names, also to hide history. So now, by you having bywords, well, where do you come from? You understand? So we have a rich history, man. We are the children of Jacob, whose name was changed into Israel. That makes us the children of Israel, the 12 tribes. And we have, of course, the ones who are likened unto a speckled bird. You know, you might look like another nation because our women lay down, our men lay down with other nations. Of course, the women also do that, but the man declares the pedigree. He declares the seed. You understand? So the man declares the bloodline, the race, according to the scriptures. You know, you can read in the book of Ezra, the women could not, you know, declare where they came from because they didn't, you know, they couldn't find the males basically that were of their family. So if you can do that, then that means you cannot declare where you come from, where you came from, and where basically your ancestry came from. You know, we need to be very aware of that. But if you go into this, you see also, according to the Bible, we have in this world, we all have biblical nationalities, which again are changed because, you know, the devil, he's the one that wants to hide his true nature because he wants you to be asleep, but to the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, we are remembering who we are, because the Lord is sending out his prophets out on highways and byways, making videos so that we, you know, and teaching so that we will wake the hell up, man. Because the time is nigh that Jacob, you know, that this kingdom of Esau is going to be pulled down, and that Yahushai, not Jesus or another name, he is named Yahushai. You understand? You have Yahweh, the name of the Father, and Yahushai, the name of the Son. So, but the thing is, the Lord is coming back with a sword. So be ready. So yeah, I wanted to go into a few things concerning, you know, brotherliness, and let me see. And also concerning, let me get this out the way. Y'all don't see the record button, but for me, sometimes it's just in the way of getting to certain scriptures. But let me go to the book of Ephesians, chapter 5. I'm gonna start at 1, because Jake, of course, you know, short for Jacob. You know, we love to, you know, crack jokes and all that, and it's all good until a certain standard, until a certain boundary that you should not cross, especially among brethren. You know, so Ephesians 5:1, it says, "Be imitators of the Lord," you know, or living in the light in the NOT. So be ye therefore followers of Yahweh as dear children, and walk in his love, as Yahushai also loved us, and had given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Yahweh for a sweet-smelling savor. So because if you read in Ephesians chapter 2, you see that the Lord was sacrificed so that we, you know, he went on the cross so that we would be cleansed of our sins, and we would be brought together, you know, the circumcision, the ones that knew who they were, you know, the Jews in that time, and of course, also the Israelite foreigners, the uncircumcision, because if you were circumcised, basically, the Jews, we needed to circumcise ourselves the 8th day. And if you were an Israelite foreigner, you grew up in other countries, especially in the time of the Maccabees. It started when the Grecians came into rulership. You understand? So after Alexander reigned, Antiochus Epiphanes, he wrote letters to his fellow, rulers, and he prohibited the children of Israel from keeping their own commandments. Now, no more Sabbaths, no more circumcision of the children, the sons, on the 8th day, no more keeping the Shabbat. That was all prohibited. So if you grow up in that environment, not keeping the commandments, because the scriptures say that we need to teach our children, because if you don't do that, you will become like a heathen. And that's the start of becoming, a Gentile. That's the whole thing, worshiping of idols, and that will bring you to a new low. You understand? So that is what is separating you from your power, from your God, Yahweh. So, and walk in his love. And as Yahweh Shai also, I read that Salakia. So verse 3, because I wanted to go to the word love. Of course, love, I think it's agape, or, you see, it goes into affection, goodwill, brotherly love, benevolence. Benevolence goes into you being willing to be helpful and to be, be friendly. Let me see. Benevolence meaning the quality of being well-meaning, kindness, goodness, goodwill, benignity goes into kindness and tolerance towards others. And this is very important. So this is very important, because tolerance is something that you also need to have. Tolerance, you just forbearing one another, having the patience, because look, if you come into this truth, you need to shed some of the old man, right? So that takes tolerance from other people, because you might do some things that are not, basically wanted or not accepted. But you need time to, get rid of the old man. So we need to forbear one another. We need to have patience and allow one another to grow.
Tolerance.
The ability or willingness to be tolerant, the existence of opinions or behavior that one dislikes or disagrees with. You see, so you might not grow like that into the man that you need to become in the eyes of the Lord. But tolerance gives you the space. Patience gives you the space. True brotherly love, that gives you the space to grow towards one another.
Tolerate.
Allow the existence or occurrence or practice of something that one dislikes or disagrees with without interference. And of course, you need to be able to have that patience, So, and when that happens, when someone happens that you don't, like, that you disagree with, still, of course, those who are in the spirit, you need to restore such a one that transgresseth in the spirit of meekness. So with us, of course, we need to correct one another so that we can grow towards one another. And of course, first and foremost, towards Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. You understand? So your decorum, your new conversation, that anastrophe, that conversation, your new ways basically need to be adapted to the spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. So here it goes into love, i.e. affection or benevolence, especially, a love, a feast of charity. Charity goes also in brotherly love, and charity is also, it's not only when you have like a feast, but also to be brotherly, to be patient with one another, man. to show love.
Charity.
See, it goes into organization, but also it goes into here it says basically naast de liefde. That's in English. It goes into basically the love your neighbor. You know, the ones that are next to you. Naast is like next. You know, so let me see if that if I can find. Let me see. You see, yeah, it goes straight into charity. You know, it's not really like a straight up translation. And that's also what the scriptures say. Some words are hard to be basically understood if you translate them, or doesn't have the same force in them. And that's an example of the scriptures being translated from the Hebrew to the English, you know, into English. That shows you that certain words cannot be straightly translated from one language to the other without it losing its force. It's a certain vibration that it has, you know. So that's why we have to go back to the Hebrew. But if we go to charity in the etymon line, so the etymology is the root meaning of the word, and that goes into late Old English, benevolence for the poor. You know, it can also go into that. You know, you're helping the poor, but also with that, you need to know whom you're helping, according to the Sirach chapter 12. And that's also a thing that I saw. You know, you had some homeless guy, so-called, some Edomite guy, that was saying like, yeah, I just say that I'm homeless, then I get more money, but I really have I have a place where I live, and I have like government, I'm on welfare. So these bums are playing, games with people as well. The comment section just blew up, man. But yeah, that's why you need to know whom you are helping. You know, you need to help the ones that are in the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai, you know, that are not a bunch of pieces of dung. You know, dung is going into excrement, goes into, shit in the scriptures. So you need to know whom you're helping, because you might facilitate some demon to do his wickedness, man. You might buy a ticket to molest someone or something, or buy some dope. So you need to be careful whom you're helping. So charity goes also into, so-called Christian love. I say so-called because the true Christians are the children of Israel, the followers of the anointed, really. That was what Christian means. And Christ goes into the anointed, and you had many anointed ones, but the anointed one, is Yahweh Shai, the Messiah. So love in its highest manifestation, goes into the French society of whatever. Charity, mercy, because French is not my first language, and need is my second, need is my third, or whatever. So charity, mercy, compassion, alms, charitable foundation, or giving alms, you're helping people, it could be with money or other things, so they can be, back on their feet. So from Latin, charitatum, tatum, costliness, esteem, affection. You see, so affection goes also into you showing love. So let me see. It goes into the Greek agape love, especially Christian love of fellow man, perhaps to avoid the sexual suggestion of the Latin amor. You see, so it's the difference between amor and agape. It has nothing to do with, with the sodomy. So that needs to be clear. And it goes into from agape, from delectio, non of action, from diligere, to esteem highly, to love. So yeah, you can read the rest for yourself, because the thing is, that is what you need to show towards a brother. Love your neighbor. The book of Philippians is also very clear when it comes to that. Was it Philippians 2 verse 1? Be like Yahweh Shai, or have the attitude of Yahweh Shai. So Philippians 2 verse 1. If there be therefore any consolation in Yahweh Shai, Mashiach, because Mashiach means anointed, means or Christ in the Hebrew. So if any comfort of love, if any fellowship of the Spirit, if any bowels of mercies, it's like if any bowels and mercies, fulfill ye my joy. So this is important that you, the Apostle Paul speaks, so hey, this would make me happy, of course, inspired by the Spirit of Yahweh Shai, that ye be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. That's very important. Let nothing be done through strife, so or vainglory, that you want to just glorify, be that dude, be humble. It says it here, but in lowliness of mind, you see, let each esteem other better than themselves. So you need to do better, man. That comes in with the mind of being considerate. Let me go into that word as well. Considerate goes into marked by deliberation, from Latin consideratus, goes into considerare, to look at closely, observe. So when you are talking and someone might be offended, you need to be considerate of that brother's feelings. Or, when it's basically social cues, man. You need to know what to say in certain settings. And sometimes you need to just be quiet to begin with, man. Just not say anything at all. You don't have to force certain things to be funny, if you're not a comedian, so-called. Just be yourself, and always consider the feelings of one another. Certain jokes are not jokes. Certain things should not be said. You understand? If someone is struggling with something, and even though you have a tight relationship, with that brother, still, if you cross that line, you might break that brotherliness and damage it to the, to the extent that that brother will distance himself from you from there on. So be very careful what you're saying. And of course, we need to be able to forgive, but you can't forgive someone. But with certain, the scriptures talk about, you don't have to accept someone against your soul. You still need to be brotherly, but you don't have to be buddy with everyone. And if you offend people, you're gonna put that vibration out there of basically discord, and a brother will think twice to tell you certain things now, because the scriptures talk about it. Also, when when they open up unto you, and that is being used as a basically they become the butt of the joke, that can offend someone severely to the extent that they will separate from your company as much as possible. Even though we need to still be considerate of one another, and that we all need forgiveness. That's the point. But it can damage relationships, man. So we need to do better and be wise. So consider, to look at closely, observe. And if you observe, you will take a look at certain patterns and certain things that you can learn from, basically take notes, and then you know how to act. So if person's deliberate, prudent goes into wisdom. Use wisdom. Give into consideration, meaning not unfeeling or rigorous. So you see, you need to be using empathy, and not being rigorous, which is basically being harsh, or being being mean. Be rigorous. I don't know why it still keeps giving me the Dutch.
Rigorous.
Rigorous goes into extremely thorough and careful. Well, Salakia, I thought it was into, it goes also into rigor. Of rule system strictly applied or adhered. It goes into strict and severe. Also hard, austere. Severe, strict in manner or attitude. Tough, strong enough to withstand adverse conditions or tough handling, harsh. cruel or severe. You see, so it also goes into that. It could be strict, like a rigorous regimen, rulership, but it can also be like Pharaoh ruled over us with rigor, and that is with true, like with hate. Let me see. If correct is this.
Rigor.
The quality of being extremely thorough and careful, and also severity or strictness. Yeah, it goes into the same thing with hardship. Is the comparisons. Harshness, suffering, misery, distress, discomfort, so back to the word considerate. So meaning not unfeeling or rigorous. So that goes into, because unfeeling goes into you being cold and just don't give a F about how someone feels, or rigorous, that's what we just read, with harshness, being cold and inconsiderate, showing showing consideration for the circumstances or feelings of others. Boom, right on the money. You see, so that is very important that you look at the circumstances. So where you're at, the check around, circumspect. Circumspect is your eyesight, basically. So you need to look around, and not just literally all the time, but thinking about like, okay, I need to broaden my basically spectrum of my views, and this also goes into spec, and think about the mind of the people that I'm dealing with, and to not offend. If you see someone that struggles with someone with some things, you're not going to use that to bash him down, to laugh him to scorn, because the scriptures are very clear in Sirach chapter 7 verse 11. Laugh no man to scorn in the bitterness of his soul, for there is one which humbleth and exalteth. So you see that. So this shows you already the Lord is able to put you down in the position that you found so funny, to the bitterness, at the cost of your brother, to teach you a lesson. Like, oh, you thought that's funny. You thought that what the brother is dealing with, that's a funny thing. So let's see how you like it. You understand? So the Lord is able to humble you and to show you certain things, so you would be humbled and taught a lesson. So to go back to Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. So let nothing be done through strife and vainglory, but in lowliness of mind let each esteem other better than themselves. So you need to do even better for your neighbor. Love him more than yourself. Of course, it's balance, because if a man is evil unto himself, to whom can he do good? You need to love yourself as well. But here, in lowliness of mind, goes into tape nophrosine, tape nophrosine in the Greek. The having a humble opinion of oneself. So don't put yourself up there, being puffed up and proud. A deep sense of one's moral littleness, modesty, humility. Before honor comes humility. So you meet the humble. You have the cry of the humble, the meek shall inherit the earth. So meekness is not weakness. You understand? Lowliness of mind. So if you should not basically, scripture say, don't force the course of the river, concerning the truth, but also concerning who you are. Of course, you need to be your own character, but of course, fashioned after the will of the Lord, but still your own character. You will have your own peculiarness, your own way of thinking about certain things. Of course, if it goes against the scriptures, then you need to be corrected, but still, everyone has a certain spirit. Jacob is very peculiar. Understand? We all have our things that, makes us different, but yet as one in Yahweh by Shem Yahushai. So It goes into humiliation of mind, i.e. modesty, humbleness of mind, humility of mind, lowliness of mind. So you need to be humble, man. You know, and that is a thing that, let me also go into that. Let me see, humbleness goes into humble. Yeah, let me just straight up go to humble. Goes into submissive, respectful. So respectful, lowly in manner, modest, not self-asserting, obedient, humble, goes into earlier, humile. You already heard humili, humilis, lowly, humble, literally on the ground, from hummus, and it goes to earth, ditchem, Proto-Indo-European root meaning earth. But it goes to lowly in kind, state, condition, or amount, also of persons or of low birth, from humble beginnings, so-called. Humble, render oneself humble. Just BS here, but yeah. Also to bend, kneel, or bow, lower someone in dignity, someone that is humbled. So basically that's the thing there. And so esteem goes into hegemai, to lead, to go before, be a leader, to rule, command, to have authority over. But it also goes into to consider. You understand? Account, to think. So in figurative sense, to deem, to consider, to account. So better than themselves. Better to, it goes to hyperrecho in the Greek, and it goes to have or hold over one, to stand out, rise above. So better, even treat that person better than you treat yourself. Love thy neighbor. Do unto others as you want others to do unto you. You understand? To the prominent men, rulers, to excel, to be superior, better than, to surpass. So better, it's clear. But I just want to go on now. Verse 4, look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. You see, so in the NLT, don't look out only for your own interests, but if you consider, then you're going to do this, but take an interest in others also, in others too. So think about your fellow, your brother. Ephesians chapter 5, let me jump to verse 3. But fornication and uncleanness, sexual immorality, uncleanness, you becoming morally defiled, low standards. Uncleanness goes into akatarsia, goes into here in physical sense, uncleanness, but also in moral sense, the impurity. So you become impudent, shameless. Of lustful, luxurious, profligate living. You're just following your lust, having no sense of temperance or whatsoever. It goes into impurity, the quality, and physically or morally uncleanness, you see? And if you go into profligate living, you're just living it up. Reckless. Profligate living, the meaning, according to the AI. You see here, profligate living means a lifestyle of reckless extravagance, wastefulness, an unrestrained self-indulgence. So everything you just take, being covetous. And it goes also into that in a minute. Often involving excessive spending or morally questionable or dissolute behavior, like lavish parties or gambling, ignoring consequences for personal ruin or societal harm. You see? So, your lack of self-control, being a slave to cravings and desires. The scriptures are very clear when it comes to that. You understand? So, even if you have a whomp of money, just spend it wisely. Save it up, or, so like to go back. So, it goes also in fornication, all cleanness, and all cleanness, covetousness. Then we go to that. Covetousness goes to pleonexia, greedy desire to have more. Or he has that, I want it all. I want more. And, the scriptures say, covet the righteous gives, Someone is good in history or whatever, and you're lacking in that area. You can ask for that to Yahweh Basham Yahushai, because it's for the good, but not be asking upon your lust. Like in James chapter 4, the first 3 verses. When you ask amiss, the Lord's not going to give you anything because you ask upon your lust. Lord, can I have this money for a Ferrari or whatever, or this money for a Mercedes, or, just to buy a gold chain or whatever. If you work for it, the Lord might bless you with a job that pays well, and then you're able to also reap the benefits of your labor, because that's also a gift of the Lord according to Ecclesiastes. So it's not bad to buy things, because Jake was also decked out by Yahweh Basham Yahushai, by the Lord Yahweh back in the days, with different badges, skin, all types of we had all types of ornaments, all types of jewelry and all that. So that's not going off, but to be indulged in your lust, to follow after that solely, that's going off. That's just being unbalanced as well. The Lord is all about balance, and unjust balance is abomination to the Lord. So, it's all about being in balance. So, avarice, i.e., by implication, fraudulency, extortion, covetousness practices, covetous practices, covetousness, or greediness. That's not a good look, man. It's not a good thing. And so, or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becoming saints. And saints, are the children of Israel. You are set apart. Saints goes into being, if I'm correct, this is agnos. It's becoming holy, set apart. Or hagios. Agnos is also to become holy or to separate. But hagios, the most holy thing is saint, and also goes into sacred, physically pure, but also morally blameless. Be ye blameless. So that the body will not be blamed because of your stupid works or whatever, your unrighteousness or wicked works, or whatever you want to, your uncontrolled rage gets you into a crazy ass fight, and now the body's being blamed. Oh, that's that guy. Be careful of what you're doing, because this is a 24/7 thing. We're not weakened Israelites. This is what we do. This is who we are, according to the spirit of Yahweh Basham Yahushai. So, ceremonially consecrated, most holy thing is saint, and the saints are the children of Israel, and that's just what it is. You understand? So you see, holy, holy. So you set apart, sanctified for the service of, doing the will of the Lord, Yahweh Basham Yahushai, praising him, serving him, and being out there. So to proclaim the truth. And some just to serve the Lord, because not everyone is a teacher. So, but it's not bad, because the Lord has his prophets out there to bring in the elect, and not all of us are teachers and prophets. So, but it doesn't mean that you're, not important in the eyes of the Lord, or else he wouldn't send us out there on the highways and byways to edify, the children of Israel. So, neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks, So don't put all that energy into foolish talking. You're just talking out of your behind, basically. It goes into morologia, and you see the word also, morals, basically. Foolish or moron, really. Morologia goes into buffoonery, silly buffoonery. Speak. And moros goes into, foolish, impious, godless. It goes into dull or stupid, as if shut up, because, you can't speak, and, i.e. heedless, morally, or basically 1,000-yard stare, heedless, morally blockhead, apparently absurd, foolishness. You being a blockhead, blockhead meaning
Blockhead.
a stupid person. You're stupid. Like Dexter was saying in the cartoon. An idiot, a fool. A person
Fool.
who acts unwisely or imprudently. A silly person. And if you are prudent, you are wise. If you are imprudent, you are unwise. And then you become a fool. But sometimes even a fool, when he keepeth his tongue, he is deemed wise. So even a foolish person, when he shuts the hell up and doesn't talk all types of madness, he is deemed wise because he at least had some social cues and some awareness of, okay, let me just not be a clown right now or blockhead right now, So no one gets offended or gets put in the spirit world, because in certain instances, if you don't keep your mouth shut, you can end up in the spirit world, man. Let me get to that. Don't want to make it too long, but if I'm correct, it's somewhere up here. Where was that, man? Let me check it out, because I had it somewhere. I just posted it yesterday as well. Oh no, those, if you're correct, it's in the book of Proverbs, chapter 18. Yeah. The way I was in a shot, because I went back to conversation with the brother, but I mentioned it in the memo. But I can listen to that, and then it just brought me back. So Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. So it shows you, if you talk shit, you can be put, to death, man. What did you say, man? I feel sorry for your mother. You remember that in Menace to Society? Well, what did it bring? Death. The tongue can bring death or life. Those who love it, those who love to talk, talking all that, will reap the consequences. And what are those consequences? You being put to death or put in a wheelchair or whatever, or put into a hospital bed. But you can be put to death for talking reckless, man. So that shows you that words can offend severely, to the extent that someone who is not in the spirit can actually put you to death, man. So that shows you that you need to be considerate of the circumstances that you are in, and also of who you're dealing with. Because the scriptures say, what was it? Just not with a rude man. Here, just Sirach 8:4. Just not with a rude man, lest thy ancestors be disgraced, because it might go to the next level of offenses and all that, in making you look bad You know, people start talking about all types of crazy things, and then it can escalate and go to that level that someone is going to be put down, man, or knocked the hell out. Because it's, you know, and what was it, the root mouth or strokes? Yeah. A fool, Proverbs 18:6, a fool's lips enter into contention. So you see, if you're foolish, you know, you don't know your boundaries. A fool's lips enter into contention. So you get into quarrels, into all types of verbal fights, and his mouth calleth for strokes. So fools' words get them into constant quarrels, and quarrels are verbal battles, back and forth arguments, you know, tense arguments. They are asking for a beating, you see? So don't be moros, and don't be a fool, stupid fellow, dullard, a simpleton, or arrogant, because arrogance might get you in the spirit of, man, ain't no gonna happen to me. You know who I am, man? So, properly fat, i.e. figuratively stupid or silly, a fool or foolish. Don't be foolish, man. So, it call it for strokes, and that goes into strokes, blows, you know. A blow, stripe, you know, from a whip or whatever, stroke, you know, you're being beaten, man. Be careful of what you are doing, because you're what you're saying as well, because you might end up in strife, controversy, dispute. You know, this goes into contention, strife, quarrel, dispute, controversy, case at law. You know, so you see that? So that's what it goes into. So be very aware of your surroundings and of who you're dealing with and at what time. So again, the jesting and all that, which goes into to jest, narrative of exploits, jest, action, exploit, from justice. Let me see, goes into to behave, act, perform, just, you know, jester is a clown as well. But here it goes into, this is what I was looking for, mocking speech, raillery. So you're talking shit, you're laughing, making someone a laughing stock. And no one wants to be that, because in these heathens, what have we become? Because of the curses, a laughing stock, a taunt, and a proverb. So people are already jesting at us, these enemies. And if you do that among one another, because jokes is one thing, because look, you can joke around, but don't speak in a mocking manner, because you want to treat your neighbor the way you want to be treated, right? And of course, sometimes it's on the edge, but still be considerate, man. Just be considerate, because it can start all types of madness among one another. So again, that jesting goes into etrapelia, and it goes into pleasantry, and so it can be, you know, jokes, everyone's laughing, that's good. Humor, facetiousness, you know, being a clown when we need to be basically serious. In a bad sense is scurrility, ribaldry, low jesting, and ribaldry, I'm gonna get it in a minute. Ribaldry, jesting, witticism, because, you know, Jake be witty, but ribaldry, or ribaldry, let me see. Ribaldry goes into debauchery, bawdy speech, you know, being obscene, coarseness, you know, harsh, rough, also of language. It goes to licentiousness, That's sexual, basically, without any, basically without constraint, offensively abusive. You shouldn't be doing that, man. Coarse, obscene, it's just out of bounds, man. So when you go into licentiousness, I'm going to wrap it up in a minute. You see, licentiousness describes a state of being unrestrained, especially sexually, showing a disregard for law, morality, or social norms. So social norms, is you basically knowing when to act, or how to act in a certain setting. Decorum. You're becoming a new man. The new conversations or your new way of life. Even if you were talking shit back in the day, you need to dump it down, or tone it down. So disregard for rules can also mean general disregard for laws, rulers, or proper conduct. You see, so your conduct is very important. You knowing how to act is very important in the truth, because we need to be examples and having self-control and not lacking it, like it says here. Desolate or lacking self-control, such as what might lead to banning a book or a film, but also you being banned out of certain certain spots or whatever. Ribaldry, amusingly coarse or irreverent talk or behavior. It also goes into indecency, being rude. You see, impropriety. So you being improper. Was a tongue twister there. Impropriety. So failure to observe standards or of honesty and or modesty, improper behavior or character. You see, so don't do that, man. There's certain rules that you just need to follow, and you should not be being messed up, man. You need debauchery, excessive indulgence in sex, alcohol, or, you're just being loose, degeneracy. And we need to be the opposite of this, because the Lord said in Jeremiah 2, why hast thou become a degenerate plant unto me? Just breaking off on the ways of your forefather, being like heathens, talking, having those Edomite jokes in your basically in your verbal armory. So it's not a good thing, man. Just be considerate of one another. And basically this is the thing, man. Be very aware of what you're saying and how to treat one another. Treat your neighbor the way you want to be treated. It's joking is okay, like it says, but don't make it don't make someone a laughing stock, because the Lord can also reduce you to that. If you're doing it out of spite, the Lord sees you. If you are doing it, if you mess up, that's another thing, but still apologize and learn from your mistakes, man. So yeah, with that, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, for giving me the spirit to do this video. Double honor to the apostles, elder bishops, and elders of Great Millstone that rule well and that taught us this truth. Salutations to the sincere Achim out there that are, preaching the gospel. To all your brothers and sisters that believe in Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, to all y'all say shalom.